Oh, boy. We're live. We are live, Chuck.
Hey, well, good evening, boys and girls, and welcome to Wednesday. This is my favorite part of the week. I get my fellas together, we chop up sports, and it's always entertaining and enlightening. And sometimes I even learn something. So, again, welcome. Before we go any further, I'd like to take a second and introduce the distinguished panel. And first, I'd like to start with my friend, Earl Go Rush. Earl is one of the best dancers in the Washington, D.C. area, maybe the East Coast. Salsa is his specialty, but he can do it all. Mr. Earl Rush, good evening.
Charles, how you doing? Let's not start the show off with a lot of hype. I'm a very good dancer. I'm nowhere near one of the best on the East
Coast.
I'm nowhere near that, but I'm excited about talking about sports tonight.
Another one of the panelists is a good friend of mine, St. Anthony's alumni, maybe the best athlete in my neighborhood growing up. And I mean baseball, football, and basketball. Mr. Larry Abels, good evening. How you doing, Larry?
Fine. Thank you for the kind words.
You're more than welcome.
Always good to see you, Chuck.
And the distinguished gentleman from the Circle City, Mr. David Burnett, otherwise known as Indianapolis, Indiana. Hey, David, is Indianapolis area, is there anything distinguishing about that as it relates to sports?
We have the biggest crowd for any sporting event every May. So that distinguishes Indianapolis over any city in the world.
Well, there you go. There you go, guys. I think he's calling it the sports capital of the country. Well, look, we're going to try to get to it all tonight. We're going to try to get to some of the top NFL games from the past weekend. We're going to talk about who maybe is the MVP candidate so far. We're going to talk about, some of the better games and so forth. But before we get in, and we're going to talk about the NBA, we're going to talk about the punch. We're going to cover it all. We're going to talk about some college football. But before we start on any of that, I have the first question to this distinguished panel. And it's going to be a little controversial the way I deliver it. So should the quarterbacks start wearing dresses in the National Football League? Are we at a point now that, all the rule changes always benefits the offense? I am a defensive guy. I like defense. And now we can't even sack the quarterback? Are you kidding me? So I want to ask this panel, what did you guys think of some of the calls, and specifically Brady? The referee was James Boger, that Brady sack in the Atlanta Falcons game, and then Kansas City played recently against the Raiders, and they had a controversial call on a sack. So I'll start with you, David. What do you think of these calls and these sacks against the defense protecting the quarterbacks?
It's an overreaction. There's no question about that. It's an overreaction. The NFL certainly wants to protect quarterbacks because quarterbacks are still considered the number one property of an NFL team, and particularly if you have a good one. I think the Tua incident with two different scenarios, one where he was had to be helped off the field in the first game that he was hurt. And then the following week, when his fingers were hooked up, that scared a lot of people and created a concern. And I think naturally the league and officials have gone a little too far in terms of interpreting the rules and protecting the quarterback. But again, let's not make any mistake. The NFL is about protecting the quarterback. When we talk MVP, we're only talking about one position, and that's the position that they're going to protect.
So, Larry, what are your thoughts given what happened to Brady and in the Kansas City game, and in David's words, maybe the overcorrection of what happened to Tua? And what do you think? How do you think that's going to impact, the season? Quite frankly.
Well, I had the time to see a lot of the sacks this week, and most of the time they let them play football. what we call playing football. Now, there were a few that I thought were questionable in other games. Certainly the one that was on national TV, everybody saw that one, and I thought that was a terrible call. I don't know what Jones was supposed to do, on that play. Brady's, I think the official may have been influenced by the way he tackled him, because it probably was somewhat similar to how Tua was tackled, even though not exactly the same. I thought that the league had made this a point of emphasis, and I was kind of upset because that should have been publicized if they made it a point of emphasis. But it turns out the referees and the league said they didn't make it a point of emphasis.
Right.
So I just look at it as some refs blew the calls, and every week that happens when you really think about it. I remember a playoff game that Brady was playing in, and somebody tapped his shoulder pad, and the referee said that he hit him up high, which led to calls for people reviewing it. But, I doubt if those plays will be reviewed because it'll still boil down to being a judgment call.
So Earl, so do you like defense over offense, or does these changes or this overreaction, how does that make you feel towards the games that you're watching now?
I like football, okay, and the way they protected some of the players doesn't seem like it's tackle football anymore. Everyone's crying about the Brady sack. I actually can, if I was open-minded and was looking at a far-fetched way, I could understand that call. The call on Chris Jones was the worst call I've ever seen in watching football ever. It was the worst call ever in football. So, are we playing football? I don't know about. I think you may have been trying to be facetious.
I was.
They need dresses, but these rules. Something has to be done. This is crazy.
Do they hold back? Do the defensive linemen, the defensive ends, the linebackers, do they hold back now? And will that impact the game? And I just find it curious, and I just wanted to see what you all thought about that, because I thought that was the big thing that came out of the weekend for me.
Well, you can't hold back. Some of these guys are big and strong. They can break away that tackle. Those guys like Buffalo's quarterback and big strong dude. You gotta take that boy down. You can't be pussyfooting around with some of these ball players out here. Right. But the game's in trouble right now. To be honest with you, it's in trouble.
I'm not going to go that far to say the game is in trouble. It is the most watched television collectively. The television shows of any given week, all year, every year. The most watched game and the most watched television show is the Super Bowl by miles. And if it wasn't the case, so I don't think the game itself is in trouble. I think the big defensive linemen in particular and other players are working hard to try to make sure that they don't participate in an injury. The game is evolving. We don't want, we've seen the result of what happens when it's unregulated. Yep. We've seen guys who are nearly crippled. We've seen guys who have committed suicide. So at some point, something has to be done, no matter what our taste is in terms of hitting and violence. Yeah. We still have to be mindful. These are human beings, individuals many of whom suffer lifetime injuries and lifetime mental injuries as well.
Well, let's do this. Let's get into a couple of the games from the past weekend. I'm sure we all watched some football this weekend, and I'll start with Larry. Larry, what did you think was your favorite game of the weekend, or what caught your attention? Which game caught your attention this past weekend?
Well, I like the Kansas City and Raiders game, but I do want to say one more thing on the last subject. Let's not overreact to a couple of missed calls. It happens every week. There's some bogus roughing up calls almost every week. So I think the one involved Brady and one happened on national TV. So I think that gives a sense that you don't hear people really complaining about other games. Most of the other games, they were just tackling people.
Right.
But I thought that game was a great game. Very entertaining game. 30
up 17. They were up 17. Yeah. The Raiders. And
I was glad Kansas City won after that botch call. That was a horrible call.
That was a bad call.
I was glad they won that game. I don't know why they went for 2. The Raiders went for 2.
I'm gonna get it.
I don't get it.
I'm going to get into that later,
Okay.
because I see that as a trend here in the league, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on that. Earl, did any particular game catch your attention over the weekend, Mr. Rush?
I wasn't impressed by none of the games this week.
Now, how about the Cowboys at the Rams? That was a good win for. I mean, I'm not a Dallas person, but I thought for the Dallas to go in with a backup quarterback into LA, the Super Bowl champs, and got that W. You know, as much as I hate to say it, that was a good win for Dallas. What'd you think of that game?
I think Los Angeles Rams have tremendous problems on their offensive line, and any team that has offensive line problems is not going to be good. So,
David, any game jump out at you over the weekend? Caught your attention on any level?
There were actually 2 games that I think were interesting. They may not have been the most dynamic games, but I think the Packers game against the Giants out in London showed me something about what's going on with the New York Giants. Not so much with the Packers, because we talk about the Packers all the time. They're one of the cherished franchises of the NFL and get talked about too much. The Giants, who've been troubled and bad for several years, are looking like they're coming alive. Their quarterback is looking even, better than mediocre, and maybe that's all he has to be. So that game was the one that caught my attention, as well as the Ravens and the Bengals.
Yeah,
that's a division rivalry. The Ravens pulled it out in the end,
1917.
But that division, and with Pittsburgh being trash this year, I think we're going to see Cincinnati and Baltimore battle it out for the championship of the AFC Central.
Interesting.
AFC, well, is it North? I think it's North now.
It's interesting you just mentioned the Giants. I think that Saquon Barkley has made David Jones look better, because he's got somebody he can get the ball to, both either through pass or handoff, and it makes Jones look a little bit better.
The defense is playing well too.
And the defense.
It's not like Jones look better than me, and it just looked like Saquon's doing good stuff.
Right.
Daniel Jones is trash. Period.
Oh, come on.
In my opinion.
Come on. Okay, that's your opinion.
Right. So here's the thing. What's interesting, I think at the beginning of the season, we were all pretty down. At least I think we were all pretty down on the NFC East. And now look at the NFC East. The Giants are 4-1. The Philly is 5-0, I think. The Cowboys are 4-1.
That's enough. Stop there.
I know I did. I didn't want to go any further. So it looks like the NFC East has presented themselves fairly well. And in fact, we have a big game coming up this weekend when Philadelphia and Dallas get together, and it'll be interesting to see how that game works out. And in fact, I saw something today that said Rush is going to start at quarterback and not Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback, is going to start for the Cowboys and not
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Prescott.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that game, David, in terms of that upcoming game? Not necessarily going to win or lose, but what's your thoughts about it?
Well, I think if you really look at Dallas, Cooper Rush, there's been a lot of hype around him, but they have dummied down the offense so completely, and they have a really good defense. And that makes a difference. So I think Dak Prescott, who is being paid $40 million a year, has nothing to fear. But we, the media in particular, love to create quarterback controversy. I don't think there is one, because when you really look at Cooper Rush, what has he really done except be a good, outstanding game manager? So I'm going to look. I'm going to look at that game, and that game is going to tell us a lot.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So I just want one more point, and I'll move to Larry about this. So you're telling me if Cooper beats Philly this weekend and they go 5-1, and the chemistry seems to be working, and they've dummied it down in your regard. That in your mind doesn't create a little bit of controversy to you?
There's the only folks who are seeing controversy are us. We are the only people who are creating the controversy, because when we get away from the hysteria, Cooper Rush has just done what a backup quarterback is supposed to do in the ideal world, and that is not make mistakes. They're not giving him stuff to work with to make mistakes. He threw for just over 100 yards the other day. That's not something that's sustainable over a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, some people say football games are won, or you lose football games, not win them. And I think that the fact that he doesn't have the interceptions and the fumbles, and they're playing just steady, handing the ball to the two running backs, Pollard and Ezekiel. Hey, if the formula works, the formula works.
Why
I know
don't all teams
you've
play
been
that
complimenting you've been complimenting Geno, what's his name, up in Seattle, who was a 10-year backup quarterback, quite frankly, and he looks pretty good.
Well, I mean, now you don't get me started on Geno Smith. There's no comparison between the kind of football that Geno Smith is playing at quarterback and Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is playing a completely limited form of quarterbacking. Geno Smith is throwing for over 300 and some yards and passing at a rate of 75% completion rate. It's a completely different type of football, completely different. But if your quarterback is limited and is not being asked to do anything but hand off and throw short drop-off passes, then you're going to be pretty good. But Geno Smith is not the one you want to compare him to.
Okay. Hey, Larry, what do you think about the resurgence of the NFC East, and what do you think about this upcoming Philly Cowboys ball game this weekend?
When the Giants won, that was a team I had the question mark about, but they beat a pretty decent team. It was the first time they played a team without playing their backup quarterback, even though they lost to Dallas's backup quarterback.
Right.
But they've done pretty well. Dallas has David is on point with not only has Rush not turned the ball over, their team only has one turnover since their first game. So they haven't had to come from behind.
It's Chuck's point. That wasn't David's point. But go ahead.
Well, no, David's. I thought he said that. That I thought both of y'all were saying he was managing the games.
Right.
Okay, but to David's point, that they haven't really asked him to do that much,
right.
and they haven't been behind. So with respect to the quarterback controversy, there's no controversy because Dak ain't ready to play.
Right.
He's not going to be ready to play probably for a couple of weeks.
Allegedly. So let me ask you a question, Larry. If he goes in and wins, if Cooper beats Philly this weekend in Philly, do we then have a controversy? They'll be 5-1. They will have beat Philly. They would have gone in and beat the Super Bowl champs. Would we then have a controversy, in your opinion?
Not at that point. Because again, I don't remember Dak's injury is supposed to take a minimum of 6 weeks. Jerry Jones is the one that was talking 4 weeks. So let's say he wins the next 2 weeks. Then if Dak comes back and loses a couple of games, then we have a quarterback.
Right.
But until those things happen, unless that happens, it's Dak's team. And they're going to certainly open up the offense more for Prescott when he plays. But let him beat Philly, and I don't know who they play the following week. And by that time, Dak will return. And if Dak doesn't play well, then all of a sudden you hear people call it.
Right. Earl, do you think did I ask you that question about this upcoming game in terms of Philly and Dallas, and what your thoughts are in terms of, do you think that'll be a competitive game, and is the NFC East back and those kinds of things?
No, you have not asked me that yet.
What's your thoughts on that?
I don't think much of the NFC East. I think Philly will definitely win this game this week. I know we said we weren't going to necessarily make a prediction. This game's not even going to be close. Dallas could go all the way to the championship game.
and
this guy played all those games. And next year, Dak Prescott will be
starting quarterback.
There is no There is no quarterback.
There's not a Bledsoe Brady situation here at all. Okay.
All time will tell, but no, you know.
Okay, cool. Hey, you brought this up. I think David or let me ask you this question. Another thing that has jumped out at me is two things. First, I've seen a trend in football, pro football, where these coaches are going for 2-point conversions and the win. If they kick the field goal, they would have a lead with 2 minutes to go. On the Chargers against the Browns the other day, it was 1:14 to go. They had a 2-point lead. It was 4th and 2 with 1:14, and they were on their 48-yard line. And they went for it instead of punting the ball deep into the Browns' territory and then playing defense with a 2-point lead. They did not get it. And turns out the Browns missed a 54-yard field goal. But the point is, it just seems like we saw the Ravens game against Buffalo earlier in the year. Is there a trend going on with these coaches taking chances either on 4th downs or 2-point conversions and so forth? David, I'll start with you. Have you noticed that, or is that just me?
No, there is a trend. I think you've amply noted it. What the trend is. It goes to analytics, and coaches and general managers and assistant coaches are leaning more toward what the analytics tells them might happen if they do X, Y, and Z. So they're going to take greater chances. They're going to go for more 2-point conversions. They're going to go for on 4th down, even in their own part of the end zone, part of the field. It's analytics has had some people might say perverse impact on the decision making in the NFL, and I think that's what's going on, and that's why we're seeing it. But it sounds crazy.
It does.
But that's it. It's kind of like the effect of the Madden football on what
real life
in real football.
Right.
Because anybody who's played Madden football, and back in the day, I used to play a lot of Madden football with my son. You'd see things tried in Madden football that you would never try in a regular season game, in a real football game. But I think the influence of 20 some years of Madden football and the different takes on it and analytics is changing the way people play and coach the game.
Hey, Larry, that's a good point, David. Hey, Larry, have you noticed that too? And do you have any thoughts about that and so forth?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. We've always used analytics, but it's these advanced analytics that people are using now. Baseball does the same thing. Instead of coaches saying, my pitcher's throwing a shutout, he's got to come out after 100 pitches. I don't know why 100 pitches is the number for everybody. And sometimes people get bit when they bring in a reliever and they knock them out of the park. Same thing's happening in football. Some people are just doing things that are flat out stupid. Analytics is...
That's the word I was looking for, actually.
Well, you have to do qualitative analysis, too, which they're not doing. Essentially, what's going on in today's game? Right. Not what has happened in history. What's happening? Is your team blocking? Come on, what's going on in today's game?
Right. So the Chargers coach...
Huh?
The Chargers coach takes a lot of chances, and that's his thing about 4th downs and so forth. But continue.
It was one game that was, and I think Harbaugh did it.
The Ravens and the Bills.
Well, this last week he kicked a field goal that made it 26-20. They went up by 6, which I was okay with that. But I was thinking, if it's a time that you want to go for it, as opposed to the other game when they made it easy for the other team to win. So
exactly.
No, but David's right on point. It's the advanced analytics. That's it.
Earl, you have any thoughts? Have you noticed that? That make you kind of say, what in the world are these coaches thinking?
I don't think. Obviously, they're going for 2 points more now than they were earlier in football history. That's obvious because of the rule change. But
I find it interesting. I don't know.
To answer your question, yes, that is the trend.
Yeah. So one last thing before we move on, from the NFL. Look, I want to get your thoughts on who do you guys think is the best defense in the National Football League? I have reduced it to the 49ers and or Dallas, but I want to get your guys' thoughts. Maybe there's a third team and so forth. I'll start with you, Earl. Who do you think has the best defense in the National Football League currently? And why?
If he's 100% healthy, I would say the 49ers. If Bosa's 100% healthy, I would say the 49ers.
Yeah.
If he's not healthy, I don't have a pick. But
right.
if Bosa is healthy, I would say the 49ers.
They are ferocious. That pass rush is ferocious. How about you, Larry? Who do you think has the best defense?
I was thinking about that earlier. That's a pretty tough call. I like both of those defenses. I think Buffalo's defense is pretty good too. So I would add another team. There might be some other teams I have as focus.
I love the defensive coordinator for Buffalo. The brother who used to be the head coach of the Vikings.
Yeah, Leslie
Frazier.
And the Giants defense is not bad.
Solid too. Yeah. David, do you have any thoughts on the best defense in the National Football League?
Right now, statistically, it looks like it's Dallas. But I'm always hesitant to tout Dallas in anything because they get more publicity than any team in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
But right now it appears to be
Dallas. Is nasty. That Lawrence and that Micah Parsons and that playmaker back there, Diggs, they do look good on defense. I'll tell you. That's why. Yeah, it's hard for me to say those words. So
have they played any great offenses this year? I'm just asking. I don't know.
That's a good question. They went into the home of the Super Bowl champs and beat them. So I don't know. Well, that's why with this weekend.
No. The question was, have they played any great offenses? It wasn't who they beat. Have they played any great offenses?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Think so, yeah.
I'm just asking. I'm just
yeah.
trying to keep everything in perspective. Okay.
All right. Well, this is one of the standards we do in this group. Give me your top currently with all the changes this past weekend. Give me your top instead of 5. Give me your top 4 teams in the NFL. And we'll start with you, Larry.
Philadelphia, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Dallas.
Yeah. I hate to put them in like I did this weekend too. David, your top 4?
Philadelphia is number 1. Kansas City is number 2. Buffalo is number 3. And oh boy.
I know I hated to do it too.
Tampa may be number 4.
Earl, how about you? Do you have a top 4?
No, I have Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Buffalo.
So what's interesting about what you guys said here is this weekend, Kansas City plays Buffalo and Dallas plays Philly.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see after this weekend, who will be left standing. And one last thing before we leave football, give me your thoughts. If you were voting for the league MVP right now, who would you take, Larry? I know it's early.
I'm gonna go with Jackson.
Lamar.
Yeah.
Go. Who would be your league MVP right now?
I'd probably go with Jackson. Yes.
David Burnett, who would be your league MVP right now?
Well, you know how I feel about the MVP award. It's distorted and it's not real. It does not represent football. That said, the MVP in the lead, we know it's going to be a quarterback. So let's just cut the BS, even though it shouldn't be. The best player right now at quarterback, and I'm going to put it that way, is Josh Allen.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Geno, man. Disappointed me.
If Seattle starts winning some more games, Geno is playing the best quarterback, arguably, in the league right now.
I was thinking about Philly's quarterback, too. He's done well this year.
He has.
Yeah, he's done well. Sure, absolutely. I would say if we had multiple options, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. But I just think Josh Allen, picking great players or MVP usually comes down to one or two moments, key moments or a key game. And what Josh Allen did this past weekend was pretty sensational. And sensational wins awards. Yeah. When Patrick Mahomes start flipping the ball underhand, he became sensational and he became almost untouchable and uncriticizable.
Yeah. All right, we're going to leave the NFL unless you all have anything additional you'd like to add before we leave. And we're going to just touch on college football briefly.
Sure. We can move.
Yeah. So with that said, look, it looks like with the quarterback Bryce Young hurt at Alabama, it made Alabama look a little vulnerable. In fact, they got lucky against Texas A&M. They could have lost that game. They have a big game this weekend against Tennessee. Tennessee has a quarterback named Hooker who's playing really, really well for them. And Tennessee is a good team. So Alabama plays Tennessee, and then Penn State plays Michigan. And Penn State has had a solid, quiet year. And those are two Titans that will be going at it. So I guess my question to you guys is first, did anything jump out of the weekend in terms of college football? Any of the games that you might have saw or heard about? And what do you think about those two upcoming games? And I'm talking about Penn State and Michigan and Tennessee and Alabama. And I'll start with you, Larry, because I know you love college football.
Yeah. I heard that Alabama almost lost, so that was kind of like news. And
they dropped. They're third in the country now.
Oh, I knew Georgia had taken over number one,
right?
But close game with Texas A&M. But I haven't really seen Tennessee play. I've seen Michigan play. They've been number 4, but they've been in a couple of tough games. Even Maryland played them tough too.
I did. They did.
I haven't really focused on Penn State.
Right.
So not really sure how to come out. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan loses any week.
Right. Right. Their offense is not that great. Go. Anything jump out at you in terms of college football this past weekend, and your thoughts on who will win the Tennessee-Alabama game and the Penn State-Michigan game? Those are big games.
Alabama will not win. They can't win without their quarterback.
Bryce Young. He might not be there.
If Michigan is the number 4 team, if Michigan is the number 4 team in the country,
country's in trouble.
NCAA is in trouble. Okay, they can't be the number. I mean,
you really feel
you guys are talking about adding on more 10 and 12 and 14, 16 team playoffs.
I know.
We don't even have 4 fucking decent teams. Excuse my language. We don't even have 4 decent teams in the NCAA.
There's a resurgence out west with USC and UCLA. We won't get into that to this show, but as those teams continue to play well, we got to keep an eye. Those two teams have had some history back in the day, and keep an eye on both of them. I think both of them are undefeated. So, but I hear what you said. I say what you say.
Soft, man. They soft. Both those teams are soft.
David, you have any thoughts about this weekend?
Yeah.
Anything from the past weekend and anything about those two games?
No question about it. The game that stood out to me and should stand out to a real football fan, Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, a blue blood football program. And I don't think anybody can debate whether they would be a blue blood college football program, because they are. They got shut out by one of their great rivals, University of Texas, 49-0.
The Red
49-0. Bad. And now, and that comes, after they had been beaten just the week before and got blown out by TCU. 55-24. There's something going on at Oklahoma, and that really stood out to me. And it shouldn't happen to Oklahoma, one of the greatest college football programs of all time. But Is Alabama going to beat Tennessee? Yes, they are.
It's going to be a good game.
Because they're Alabama, because they got Nick Saban. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Tennessee doesn't beat anybody when it matters. Michigan and Penn State. James Franklin led Penn State does not win when it matters either. I don't think Michigan is going to have a problem at all with Penn State.
10-7. The final
because
will be 10-7.
James Franklin, and I hate being critical of African American coaches
who are successful.
I'm probably very kind to them when I should be more critical. But I'm sorry, James Franklin never wins the important game. He's never won an important game. He's not winning it on Saturday.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hear you loud and clear. I want to make one quick point about that Oklahoma situation. So Clemson's offensive coordinator is at UVA, and this is his first year, brother. I'll get back to that in a second. The defensive coordinator went to Oklahoma. This is his first year. UVA is off to a horrible start, and they had a loaded offense with the Clemson's offensive coordinator, who coached Deshaun Watson, who also coached Sunshine. And so I don't know what's up with the Clemson coaches. I don't get it because Oklahoma stinks. And right now, my beloved UVA stinks. So maybe because they are first-year coaches, they don't have their guys. Plus, with Oklahoma, when that guy went from Oklahoma to USC, he took some
players with him.
Right. So, but they still shouldn't be as bad as they have been performing.
It's Oklahoma.
Yeah, I agree.
It's Oklahoma.
I agree.
You know, I'm sorry. Oklahoma cannot be that bad.
No, I don't disagree with that.
But they were bad.
Maryland had a chance. Well, we won't spend a lot of time on that, but Maryland had a chance to have a big win against Purdue, and they lost. That would have put them at 5-1. That was a big loss, but that was a good game for Maryland. So
Maryland's looking better.
Yeah, they are looking better. All right. Well, I guess that concludes our conversation on the national or on the college football team. Oh, I have a question, and we'll just be quick around the horn. Who do you think is the Heisman Trophy leader right now in college football? If the season ended today, Larry, you have any thoughts on that?
No thoughts.
Okay.
That might be one of those questions we need beforehand.
I know. I'm sorry about that. Earl, any thoughts there?
No, nobody's standing out for me right now.
Well, the quarterback from Ohio State does stand out, but David, you have any thoughts?
Nobody stands out for me right now.
Okay, I apologize. David, any thoughts?
Of course, it's leaning. It always Heisman Trophy, like the MVP in the NFL, always leans toward quarterbacks. But I think, and I forget the guy's name. Gosh darn it, the little running back from Michigan. That little running back from Michigan, I think he has a chance to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I don't know his name either. I know there was a running back from Pittsburgh that had over 340 yards and 6 touchdowns this weekend. But I just think that was an aberration, quite frankly. I don't think he's played that well up until that point. But all right, well, we'll leave college football and we'll get into our sweet spot. Our sweet spot, we'll spend a few minutes on the National Basketball Association. By the way, they open up next Tuesday. The regular season starts next weekend. So whoever's hosting the show next weekend, I'm sure that'll be our NBA show. But anyway, before we get into
Larry will take care of it.
And before we get into the player part and the team part and discussions there, we got to talk about the punch. So Draymond walks over and delivers a blow to his teammate, Mr. Pools, and it was bad. And then the video leaked out. We all saw the video. So let's start with you, Larry. Any thoughts about that activity and the fallout and where we are now?
Who's Paul Pools?
I said Pools.
Jordan Poole.
Jordan Pools.
I heard that he's going to miss 2 preseason games, and he'll be back with the team later this week. I thought that was an incredibly light penalty.
No suspension.
Yeah, he got suspended for calling Durant a bitch. He got suspended for
He did.
that. So when I wait is, it doesn't. It looks like the Warriors didn't handle it well. Draymond Green is he's a dirty ball player. Sometimes you say we'd like him on our team when he does stuff like because he's always when
On
people
the
say
edge.
he's dirty. He gets in fights with almost everybody. Tries to chump people, and I mean it was no different with his own teammate.
Right.
Penalty was too late.
Can you be that way and not be dirty though? I'm just asking.
I think when you cross the line,
can you get in fights
you're
all
dirty.
the time? But can you be always into fracases, but not be dirty?
I don't think so. I think that's what when he's on. That's the type of person on your team that you're glad he's doing that. But if he played for all the other teams are looking at him like he's a knucklehead.
Right. Well, he's a 6'7" power forward / center or center / power forward with 4 rings, doing what he has to do to be able to stay in that league. And he has to have that edge. And some people might not like the edge. I'm not a Golden State fan. I don't like it. And but it has been very effective for that organization. So Earl, what's your thoughts about that punch, the whole incident, the fallout, and where we are now?
I think he should be fined indefinitely.
He was. I think he was fined.
Not fined. I mean, he should be
Suspended
indefinitely. How you just gonna come up and just knock the heck out of somebody? I mean, what's going on? That's his teammate. Can we talk about this after the game, or can't we go in the corner somewhere? Do you have to attack somebody like that? What's wrong with him? I don't understand.
What do you?
Poole's never gonna get over that. Draymond will not be on the team in January.
Wow. So, David, do you have any thoughts about the punch, the fallout, the penalty, where we are now, etc.?
You know I do.
I know you do.
The only problem with that, first of all, Draymond is a wild card. You don't know what he's going to do at any given time. You just don't. That's who Draymond is. That's why the Golden State Warriors have won 4 NBA championships. Yep. Without Draymond Green, they don't win any of the championships, period. He's that good.
Well, he told KD, he said, we won one before you got here, and we done won one after you left.
I think
there you go.
There,
but that said,
it don't matter.
That said, punching a teammate, things like that happen all the time. The problem in this case was it was videotaped, recorded. That's the issue. If we didn't see it, it would be swept under and no one would know anything about it, or we would just have heard about it. But it's the Warriors practice. It's not like it was an open practice. Somebody on the Warriors organization leaked the video. I think there's a feeling within the Warriors organization that they're tired of Draymond's antics and they wanted to show him at his worst. Because if you really look at the video, a lot of bad things could have happened. Poole could have been concussed. He was up next to a wall when he was punched. It looked horrible. But the fact is, it looked horrible. And the key word is it looked. We were all able to look in and see it. We don't see the fights that happen at with other teams. Right. And if you don't see it, it didn't happen. This we saw, and it looked horrible. And Draymond is a wild card who will blow up at anything. And I just think there's a feeling with the Warriors that they're tired of Draymond and somebody wanted to embarrass him.
Well, I tell you, the post-fight activity doesn't indicate, except for the leaking maybe of the TMZ video, because they brought him back into the fold, and
well, of course
he's not missing any games, and business as usual. They said him and Poole even had a little discussion, and I think they're both, kumbaya, So,
well, come on now. I mean, in fairness, Chuck.
I haven't heard that.
In fairness, Golden State is an outstanding organization in terms of PR, and they're spinning this in the exact way that you should spin it. Yes, they're holding hands together. Right. They're back to no, they're not. If I'm Poole, I will never get over being sucker punched in the face.
Right. That's the point I was going to make when you said whether it was seen or not. That problem ain't gonna never be fixed. Well, the news, it made it worse that the news, it was all on the news. Yeah,
that adds to it.
The other thing, there's been many NBA players that have come out and said fights happen, but not like that. You know, They say normally it's in the heat of scrambling for the ball or something, and they start pushing each other. They say it doesn't happen like that.
Right. So it doesn't impact this panel in terms of the fact that Poole pushed him first.
No.
Does that make any difference in this?
Because his space was invaded. His space was invaded.
He came and ran in the pool. He put his chest and was walking him back. I don't hear he pushed him first. What if he didn't push him off? He would have walked him right in and smashed him into the wall.
What's the appropriate response to a push? One push deserves another push, and it's over. And then the teammates break it up. That's what should have happened. It didn't.
Golden State needs to suspend them and fine them and suspend them. One of you guys mentioned PR. David mentioned PR. This is a PR nightmare for them. And when they first released it, they said the two players were jawing at each other, started shoving, and then Green swung. The actual videos didn't show that. So they sort of lied from the beginning. I guess they were trying to spin it early on. Once we saw the video. No.
Well, we saw the video, but we didn't hear it, Larry. So we don't know what verbally
it appeared that Poole was yapping,
right,
and saying something, and Draymond didn't like what he said and came over. That's how I looked at it. We didn't hear it.
Yeah, there's no reason to hit somebody in the workplace.
No, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not.
I like that, Larry. Larry's got the HR background. He says in the workplace. I like
that. What it reminds me of? Remember, what's the football players down in Miami, where the brother walked off the team.
The receiver.
No, they were both linemen for the Dolphins.
Oh yeah. The brother lineman and the racist offensive tackle.
Right.
Well, it was funny. Now, I handle this at work, and I'll try to be brief. But I was talking to one of my coworkers. I said, well, he probably should have just fought him. They would have broke it up and the guy wouldn't have bothered him anymore. And my coworker said, why should someone have to fight to come to work? Yeah. And I thought about that. I'm like, wow, it changed my opinion on that.
Not to get into that too much, we won't. But, the brothers supported the offensive, the racist, not the other guy.
Well, I was
in fact, they got him out of Miami.
I told my coworkers they were going to support him because in this machismo world we had, he's the one that walked away. The brother walked away and he was still there fighting. He was Draymond Green for their team.
Right. I can't remember that guy's name. Anything else about
Richie Incognito?
That's exactly what it was, David. Good job. Good call there. What else happened in the NBA that you want to mention? Anything, Larry, that caught your attention this weekend? I have to say this real quick. The Nets. Every time I see video of the Nets in any capacity, it just makes me shake my head because I just think they're the most dysfunctional. At least the video. Every time I see something, it's just dysfunctional, and so that's something.
You said the fans. You said the most dysfunctional team?
They're currently, to me, they're currently they are the most. Yeah.
You saw what they did with the fans or something the other day?
With the what?
You saw their meeting with their fans?
And everybody had a jersey on, but Kyrie.
Yeah. And Durant dribbled it off.
And by the way, Simmons, in that video, Simmons took a jump shot.
Oh, it
didn't even touch the rim. It wasn't even close to the rim. I'm sorry.
One of the things I wonder about, it seems to be Phoenix has problems. Brooklyn has problems. You know, they have some inner problems that they got to work out that have become public
Celtics.
this year.
Right.
And now Golden State has one, you know.
Right. That's a good
So
point.
I wonder how those things will work out. You know, sometimes you can work with people that you don't like. I think all of us have done that at times. But you have to work it out, though.
Right.
I think. Go ahead, Earl.
Why would a guy as intelligent as Charles, and I'm not being facetious or anything, why would he say he thinks the Nets are the most dysfunctional team
currently
when the Wizards are still in the league? I don't understand.
But they're not this kind of dysfunctional.
Come on.
I think he said that because there's first of all, the Nets arguably have one of the great point guards / combo guards in NBA history. They also have one of the all-time great small forwards in history. And they have and that great guard doesn't believe in helping his team. Kevin Durant has proven that he's not a likable person.
And he's not a leader.
He's not.
But he's asking for the coach and GM to be fired.
But does that make them more dysfunctional than the Wizards?
The front
well,
office
first of all, you're talking about wins and losses. The Wizards are dysfunctional
because
they don't win anything.
Right.
They don't win anything. They don't win anything.
Right.
So,
no, I understand what you're saying, Earl. I agree with you that the Wizards front office, they seem dysfunctional and don't seem like they know what they're really doing to me and you. But they don't misbehave. When I watch them, they don't act stupid and do dumb. I don't know. They don't do like I watch the Nets and their body language, it's just embarrassing to me.
The dysfunction to me is like Irving is unreliable and Durant has asked for the coach and the GM to be fired.
That's just crazy, right?
He's not
and the head coach defends them all. The head coach always defends them all. So it's just an interesting. Anything else about the NBA that you guys want to touch on before we wrap this thing up?
We'll really get into it next week.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Can we get back to football for one question? Who's the most dysfunctional team in the NFL?
The Washington
I just want to know.
Commanders.
We have a number of them. The Commanders are certainly one.
Earl had to work that in. Hey, listen, let's transition to another sport that Mr. Abels loves and follows closely. We all love it, but he really keeps an eye on that, and that's Major League Baseball. And it's a great time in Major League Baseball right now because of the playoffs. And we won't even talk about the first round. And by the way, I thought that whole new playoff system was cool. I really did. Those 3 games in the one city and the 2 out of 3. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And we need to talk about that because 3 of the road teams won. Even though I don't think home field advantage is as important in baseball as it is in football or basketball, but 3 underdogs won.
The pitching. The Padres pitched well against the Mets, and that's it.
I got to be honest with you guys. Mm-hmm. I like all sports. I follow almost every single sport to one degree or another. But baseball is the one sport you can be lucky in. If you have a great pitcher pitching a great game, the other guy, no matter who he is, can't hit the pitch. And the team can be sorry as can be, but if they have a great pitching performance and suddenly they're great that one game. And no other sport is really like that, where 1 or 2 players can influence the outcome of a game or how you perceive a team. So
hockey is more like that. Hockey is more like that than baseball. You get a good goaltender. That's more dominant than what you described as pitching.
So the point you're making, David, is you could win 110 games in the regular season and lose the first weekend. I mean, lose the playoff series and your season's done, kind of thing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, every baseball team loses at least 50 games. Every year, every single baseball team loses at least 50 games. It's just, you can't really count on baseball to be consistently great like you can the other sports, because there are other factors involved. If a pitcher's on, if guys just can't hit, those are factors that don't really enter into play in other sports.
I disagree with him wholeheartedly, and I'll point out the team that supposed to have the best pitchers, and they're done, which are the New York Mets,
right?
And they're done.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think, and the way I understand kind of what you're saying, David. But the only thing I would say is I'm with guys sometimes, and some of these NBA guys that I've been with, they love red wine, and they can drink that wine and go, "Oh my God, smell that." I'm like, ugh. So I think baseball is something that's appreciated. Like if I had 3 or 4 or 5 hours, I can sit at a ballpark and watch a baseball game and be just as entertained. I just don't have the time to give it that kind of time. That's the challenge that I have. But I love the game, and I love all the intricacies of the game too.
I mean, I don't mean to dog baseball. I'm just saying that baseball has a fundamental problem. If you go to the game, what we have here in Indianapolis is AAA, Indianapolis Indians, and they have a very nice baseball diamond, holds about 16,000 people.
Yeah.
It's nice to go to the game, to sit in the park. It's great.
Sure.
Baseball is always like that.
Americana.
But if you watch it on TV, it's hard to watch. It's a hard sport to watch on TV. It's terrible.
Why do you say that though? Why is that? Lack of scoring?
Lack of scoring, slow pace, too much talking.
It's legit. It's a legit point.
What I would suggest is, Americans, and I'm a person that has appreciation for defense. Right. I think football to me is a lot worse now because
they don't let you play defense.
And same thing with basketball, which I love. All the rules are favoring the offense. I think basketball needed to lighten up a little bit. Right. But football is really it's like you can't even stop anybody.
It's a business, and that's what sells. For some reason, that's what the consumer wants. They want offense. That's why baseball is hurting, because it's too slow. It's not exciting enough. It's not fast-paced enough, et cetera. And that's why they lose the millennials and those people.
They should have let the steroids go run free. That's what they should have.
Hey, Earl, you got any thoughts about baseball and the playoffs at this point?
No, I'm not excited yet. I'd like to see the Astros and the Yankees play, and I'd like to see the Dodgers play
Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'll be geared up. I'll be hyped up when those two play each other. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, listen, that concludes our weekly chat about the last week in sports. This is the time of the show. We go around the panel real quick and we give closing comments. And I'll start with Earl to see if Earl has any closing comments for tonight.
I mentioned this earlier in the show, and I understand what Dave was saying. What Dave was saying really makes sense because it is the most popular sports. But I still believe that NFL game is in trouble. It may not look like it right now, but it took, in my opinion, they are in trouble. These protective calls of the quarterback and everything. I mean, it's just it's outlandish. I believe the NFL game is in trouble. That's my closing remark.
Larry, you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, mine's about baseball. I was going to tell everybody, watch the playoffs. They have been great. Absolutely great. And there's been plenty of offense in most of the series, other than the ones with the Guardians.
Yeah.
But all the rest of the series, plenty of offense, good pitching, good fielding and everything. And the teams are all good. And
great endings to these games. Great endings. Yes. Clutch hits at clutch times by the stars. So I hear what you're saying, Larry. And we're just starting. And we're just starting it.
The first round was really good. And I guess 2 games a night. I'm ready to get to one of them was in a rain delay. I guess the Braves game was in a rain delay. I hope they've started by now.
David, any closing remarks?
I do have a closing remark, and it involves the NFL and the just ousted coach Matt Rule from Carolina, fired with an 11-27 record, 1-4 this year. He should have been fired, but worse, he should never have been hired. The NFL does what it always does. It picks the wrong person. It doesn't give minority candidates even close to half a chance. Matt Rule was 11-27 with Carolina, 47-43 at Temple and Baylor. Overall, it means he's a mediocre coach. Yet all I hear are things about how he changes the culture of a team and what kind of a college coach he is. Well, go back to college and win something. You didn't win that much in college, and you didn't win in the NFL. It's time for the NFL to give African-American coaches in particular and other minorities a better chance. Because if Matt Rule can take $9 million a year and screw it up, a lot of African-American coaches would be glad to take at least some of that money.
He walked away with $40 million.
That's it.
He walked away with $40 million that's still owed to him. Amazing. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a little, because I was the host this weekend, this is a personal closing remarks. So bear with me, and the audience bear with me on this. So in the Snowden family, the number 12 is a significant number. My birthday is December 12th. My sister is 2 years younger. Her birthday is December 12th. My next sister, who's 4 years younger, her birthday is August 12th. Today, the baby, who is 6 years younger than me, my brother Michael, his birthday is today, October 12th. All of us were born on the 12th. I just want to take a second to say a shout out to my original roommate, who turned 60 today. Happy birthday, Mike. Enjoy your day. Just wanted to make a comment on that, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to do that.
Happy birthday,
right.
Mike.
Happy birthday.
All right, well, that concludes our show. It's my favorite part of the week. I think they said Mr. Abels will be hosting next week. I'm sure there'll be some NBA discussions when he hosts that show. Thank you guys for taking the time to join the panel tonight. Thanks, America. Have a great rest of the week.
All righty.
Thank
you.
Okay.